Hi, Loops. Welcome. Okay, awesome. So it seems like people are coming in. It's 3 o'clock. Let us get started here. For those of you who are new, my name is Leandra. We meet every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, whatever that time is for you. We always meet at this link. We always meet at YouTube. And the videos are always recorded. So you can go in and watch them in your own time if you ever miss part of club, or if you want to go back and watch some of it later. So with that, let's get started. Today we're going to be doing famous filters, which is a really fun activity. The link is in the chat or in the description, and I'll also post it in the chat. Basically, we take a project that you may have already done, create a filter, and we go in and we sort of make ones that can be used by anyone. So we package our filter using something called an array, and that way we can name our filter, share it with others, and switch in and out really easily. So like how on Instagram you have the option of like the Valencia filter or the Clarendon filter. We're essentially going to make our own filter, and you can name it after you. You can use it, name it after your like favorite Instagram filter, and that's what we're going to be doing. I hope that the link is working for everybody. YouTube drives me crazy. So this quick presentation on arrays before we get started. I actually don't know if OBS is gonna be cool with me going into full screen like that. Okay, looks like it is. Let's actually, I feel like this is gonna be better. Okay, cool. So a lot of you have been here when we've been doing things with variables in the past. So you know that variables are this container that we use to hold information. You can think of it like a container that we can use to put anything in. We can put numbers in, we can put strings in or words in. We can even hold objects in variables. And you've seen that in previous projects when we've added graphics and shapes to our screen, to our canvas, to our project. That is us taking these different objects on VidCode and saving them in variables so that we can modify them later. You see that when we change the color or the size or the shape or the opacity. It means we can animate them later. And without storing them, we wouldn't be able to do any of these things. So arrays are kind of like that, except instead of storing one thing on its own, we're able to store a whole list of things. So for example, if I was making a video game and I had like 70 game objects, I wouldn't want to make 70 different arrays. I would want to store those 70 different objects. Let's say it's like fruit falling from the ceiling. I would want to store those 70 different objects in an array, so I could then, for example, loop through them and change the size of all of them, or check if like the player has caught any of them all at once without having to write it out like line by line by line, variable by variable by variable. You know something is an array because it has these square brackets, and that'll make more sense once we actually like start coding in a minute. One thing to know about arrays is that programmers always start counting at 0, which can be a little bit confusing. So for example, if I had an array of weekdays, so let's say Sunday through Saturday, and I wanted to pull out Sunday from this array, I would actually have to write weekdays, and then in these square brackets, the number is 0, and that's how I would pull out Sunday. So in this case, you can see my code here. So this, if I had this array of weekdays, would give me Sunday, and then 1 would give me Monday. So I hope that was helpful. I know part of the screen was cut off, I'm sorry about that. But I think it'll make more sense as we start coding with it. So go ahead and make sure that everyone is at Famous Filters. Let me know if you have any trouble getting here. And so the very first thing that we're going to do before we even write our first array or anything like that, we're going to write code that's very familiar to you. We're just going to start by choosing a video that we're going to add a filter on and make this sort of custom filter on. I usually choose the dinosaur. I don't know if I'm feeling the dinosaur right now. I feel like I'm in more of like a sleepy cat mood. I do think that cat is adorable. I think I'm going with the cat today. But as always, your project doesn't have to look like mine. I say this every time. Feel free to follow along, or if it works better for you, you can watch the club and then go back later and go through the tutorial on your own. Additionally, your project never has to look like mine. I'm going to be going over ways to code, different concepts. I'm going to be talking about vocab and making this project. And as you're following along, you're going to want to make your project look like something that you want to make and something that represents you. So, as always, don't feel like you have to use the effects that I'm using or anything like that. So the first thing we're going to do is actually make a absolute default filter. So the same way we would do it in Creative Filter, if you all have done that tutorial, we're not going to be saving it in an array yet. We always want to do not the easiest thing first, but we always want to do the least complicated thing first, because we know that if the project isn't working later, our original filter was working. So we always want to do the thing that is easiest to debug and sort of add complexity from there. Oh, I have a rogue A. I'm going to drag in blur. I do like this for the cat. I'm going to give it some exposure. So the instructions say to drag it in this order, actually. So we're going to want to drag in blur first, and then tint, and then exposure. So if you're following along, go ahead and do the same thing. Drag in blur, and then tint, and then exposure. And go ahead and play with these different effects until you have something that you feel good about. I do not feel good about this. I don't want an angry red cat. I want a sleepy blue cat. So I'm going to go work on that for a minute. There we go. I feel like this makes it feel like the cat's underwater a bit, which I think is quite cute. Maybe make more of a purple one. Yeah, I kind of like that. Like a sepia sort of effect. Maybe a bit more orangey. I think that's really pretty. It's a little bit too bright. If you're playing around with this and you haven't done Creative Filter in the past, so 0 is going to have no effect, and 100 is going to have the maximum effect. I think if I go to 1,000, yeah, so 100 maxes it out. So play around, see sort of what you like, and if you have done Creative Filter and stuff in the past, then this is super familiar to you. Okay, I'm keeping it like this for now. Yes, this is just telling us to mess around with the values until you get a filter that you like. So then, we've done this before, right? This isn't that exciting. The exciting part is that we're actually saving this as a reusable filter. That's the part that's cool. So following the instructions here, I'm going to make what's called an empty array at the top of my code. I'm actually not going to do it at the very top, just because I want my movie to be at the top. That makes more sense to me logically. But I'm just going to go and put 2 enter signs after that and say var filter, and then equals, and then just an open square brace and a closed square bracket, open square bracket, closed square bracket. And that's going to be just an empty array that's going to hold my filter values in it. So I can put anything in this array. In this case, we're going to be putting the values for my my filter in it, and you're going to see how that's going to work in a minute. Once we do this, once we fill these different, I'm going to add multiple arrays filled with different filter values, and you're going to see it makes it really easy to switch in and out the effects that are on my video. It's going to be cool. But for now, we can see Let me show you what I was showing you before. So let me just put like random things in here. Hello. Coding club. So now I just have an ordered list of hello, coding, and club. So basically, like some of you have seen, like when you add text to projects, sometimes you want to have like multiple lines of text, and you do that by making multiple variables. This is a way to sort of get around that, and instead we could make, for example, an array and loop through it to have 3 different lines of text. So that's just one example. That's not what we're doing here. So if you are following along, you're going to want to fill this array with the different values of like your filter. So if you look at mine are 45, a hex color, 50, and 32. You're going to want to put in whatever values you have on your project. So I'm going to go ahead and type in here 45, comma, you need a comma between every single element in your array. This hex code value, I'm just going to copy and paste it in. 50 and 32. It's really, really important, a few things here, that you put these values in order. That's super important. That you put a comma between each of them, and that your color has quotation marks around it, with the comma being outside of the quotation marks. So it's a lot to keep track of, but it's really, really important, or else your project isn't going to run. So let's go ahead and click next here. Yeah, so basically, programmers start at 0. So when we pull things out of this array, we're going to have to start at 0. So now, instead of 45 here, I'm going to want to pull the value out of my array, right? So my array is called filter. So instead of having 45 here, this is all going to come together at the end. Just follow along for now. So I'm going to write filter 0. Here, I'm going to write filter 1, filter 2, filter 3. So it's going to look the same, right? And that's because I copied the values into this array. And you're going to see like the magic and the power of this in a minute, is that I'm going to make multiple arrays and I can set which one is active, and change the whole effect on my video really easily. So just to show you here, I'll pull the log up. So I could say like log filter 0. And you can see here in the console, it's just going to say 45. So with this syntax here, I'm literally just pulling the number 45 out of my array. Same thing here. It's going to have the hex code. Like I'm just literally taking that element that number is associated with out of the array. So that's all this code is doing. It like looks a little funky, but that's all that's happening there. Luke says, I have the same code as you and nothing is working. Luke, can you paste your code into the chat? Okay, awesome. So let's pause here and look at Luke's project. I'm going to start by just commenting my project out. Doo-doo-doo. Oh, okay. So, Luke's, you have, let's see. So there's a few things that are a bit weird here. So the first is that you have a period here, which you don't want. You're going to want a space. And that's because you're setting a variable called filter to this array. You got the array syntax correct, which is super tricky, so that's really good. One thing that isn't right here is that you have a rogue, like an extra comma. So I did say that you need a comma at the end of every single element. That was a bit of a lie. The last one doesn't have one. So you were 100% following the instructions and potentially took me, or like I gave actually incorrect instructions. You're only going to want a comma after every element that isn't the last one. So go ahead and delete the comma after 32. So with this, it looks like you have another array down here. You're not going to want that. So a few things. So the first, I'm going to go ahead and delete the 32 here. And then at the end of tint, I just need a closed parenthesis. And so then that's going to work. If I want to use exposure here as well, I should put in exposure 32. And so then all you're going to want to do is replace this with the filter code that I have down here to use the elements out of the array instead of having these hard-coded. So here's the code that I worked on, Luke's. And then here's the code with the different, with the actual arrays getting pulled. Cool. If anyone else has any bugs or any coding problems, same as always, feel free to post your code and we will go through it together. I want to make sure that everyone's project is working. Okay, cool. So let's give this a new variable name. It's called filter right now, but that's not like an awesome name. I don't know. What do you guys think is a good name for this filter? Maybe something with like sunshine. Like maybe like exposed, like a high like camera exposure because it's very bright. I'm just gonna call it sunshine. So now I've actually named this effect sunshine. So essentially here, these different like values together make up a filter that I am now calling sunshine. So you're going to notice that this is going to break everything. Why, for those of you watching, can you let me know in the chat why that is? Why did changing the name of my variable here break my code? Oh, what is it, Awesome Gamer? Oh, my chat isn't scrolling. There we go. I can't see what you posted. It just looks like blank, unfortunately. Yeah, exactly, Sui. So you got it. So Sui said you have to change the rest to sunshine. So basically I changed, like my variable was called filter, and I was pulling from this array called filter in all of my different functions here. It's still called filter, but now filter doesn't exist. There is no longer an array, a variable called filter. Now it's called sunshine, so I'm going to replace filter with sunshine. This is a point in the video where if you're following along exactly, things might break here. You're going to want to change this not to sunshine, but whatever you called your filter. So if you change it to sunshine, your code will probably be broken unless you also called your new array sunshine. Just make sure that you change filter to whatever you changed that variable to. It still doesn't say anything else in Gamer. Like to me, it just looks like blanks, oh, like a space in quotes. I'm not sure what's going on with the YouTube chat. Cool. So the next thing here, and like the reason that this is so powerful, is that we can now make a new array and just switch in the array that's creating this really, really quick. And like more easily than we could before. And we can now share this with other programmers more easily than we could before. Yeah, so let's go ahead and make a new filter here. So go ahead, if you're following along, make a new line under sunshine. And just make a new filter. So I'm going to say var underwater. It's going to be my new filter. And I'm going to give it like a much higher blur value. This is going to be a little weird because I'm like filling this array with elements, but not like necessarily seeing the results right away. But I can always tweak them later when my project is more visible. So I'm going to say underwater. I'm going to give it like a really high blur value because I can't really see things underwater. I'm going to give it a color of blue. I'm going to give it like a tint amount of like 65. And I'm going to give it an exposure of 45. So these are the like values that I'm going to have for underwater. Feel free to just make yours up. Like I said, you can always change them later. This isn't like anything that's going to be final. These are just values that I think are going to look really good. And remember, the first one is going to be associated with blur. The second one and the third one, I guess the actual index of the array. So index 0, I'm going to say it like this. So index 0 is going to be associated with blur. Index 1 and 2 are going to be associated with tint, like the actual color. And then index 3, the final one, is going to be associated with exposure and like how powerful exposure is on your project. Cool. So if you're following along on step 13, it gives you like ones already written, but I'm not going to use those. I like the one that I wrote. I think underwater is going to be cool. This is saying to switch between your filters, you only have to change one line, which makes me feel like I put in some of the code wrong. Because in my code, I would have to change 3 lines. But I think, okay, got it. So there's like one thing that I did a bit incorrectly here. So we're actually in like the way that I wrote this, and it's not wrong. It's just like not going to be as easy to switch filters in and out. So instead of the way I did this, where these are like called manually, instead I'm going to go ahead and recreate my filter variable and go ahead and set it equal to just sunshine for now, just so it stays the same. So what I'm doing here is I'm setting a variable called filter to just be equal to sunshine. So if I put in like log filter, you're going to see it's just going to give me my sunshine array. If I set it to underwater, it's just going to give me my underwater array. So that's all that's happening here. I'm just setting this to be equal to that array. And this is going to make sense in a second why I'm doing this. So I'm going to go in here and change these back to filter. Okay, amazing. So now I can actually change my filter with one line of code. So I would say that this is actually better code than the code that I had originally written. So for example, if I want to make it underwater, all I have to do with my new code here, where I set filter to be an array and then called all of these with filter instead of like manually the name of the array, is change this now to underwater. And bam, there it is. It's that easy. So I think what might be fun today would be if some of you want to share in the chat your filters. So all I would need is like this line of code, like the line that's on line 4 or the line that's on 5. And we can see like how easy it is to switch code in and out. So you would just paste it in. You don't need to do your whole code. You just want to copy the variable name and then the like numbers and values that you've chosen. So something like that I just posted in the chat. While you're doing that, I'm going to make a new one. I'm going to say, let's see, like a green one. I'll call it like forest. I'm going to make a forest filter. And so I'm going to say equals, I'm going to make an empty array here. And then I need to fill in, same as before, index 0, 1, 2, and 3. 0, 1, 2, and 3. I'm holding up 4 fingers, but this one is really 0, and this one is really 3. And here I'm going to say, I don't want it to be too blurry. It's like a forest filter and an underwater filter. I want it to be green instead of blue or yellow. I'm actually going to make it like more of like a darker forest green. I want it to be about like 45. And I want a lot of exposure because I want that like feeling of light sort of coming in through the trees. So I'm going to make that 80 and 75. So now if I want to see what it looks like, all I have to do is change the var filter, the array that filter is set to forest. And there it is. So now I can really easily just switch between these 3 different filters that I've created. That's awesome. I love this project. Yeah, does anyone want to share one of their filters and I can bring it into my code? Or is anyone having trouble with one of their projects and I can help out with that? All right, well, I'm waiting for you. I'm just going to make another one because I really like doing this. So I'm going to say var, I don't know about this one. So I have sunshine, I have underwater, I have forest. I feel like I'm just like using the Mario levels here or like a video game level or something. I'm thinking like pool, but I already have that. I could do like snowy. Yeah, snowy. So for this one, oh yeah, I can post my code in the chat. So snowy, I'm gonna say for this one, I also want it to be like kind of blurry. I'll put in like 40 for that. For the tints, it's like I guess like kind of blue, but like more of a lighter blue. So I'm just gonna put in a color and then make it more of this like lighter cyany color. I'm gonna make it like quite powerful, like 60. And then I'm gonna give this like a really high exposure as well. Just because you kind of get that glare when you're like looking through the snow. So I'm just gonna see what this looks like. And to do that, all I have to do is look at this variable name that I set this array to, and then switch this out. Whoa, it's actually a bit too crazy for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and make the filter a bit less powerful. There we go, this is looking better. Yeah, ooh, I like that a lot. That looks super chilly. Okay, awesome. So I'm just gonna go ahead and see what you all have sort of submitted here. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this. If you want to publish yours as well, all you have to do is press submit and give it a name. I'm just going to call mine all the filters. And I'm going to give in the description people sort of like instructions on how to use my code. So to use, copy your filters, or let's see, copy one of the filters, and then in parentheses I'll put like what they are. I can't even remember now. What were they? There was sunshine, underwater, forest, and snowy. Okay, there we go. Into your code and replace filter with one of those variables / arrays. So hopefully that makes sense to someone who has done this tutorial and is interested in using my code. Hi, what dat? Cool, and here it is. So if anyone wanted to, or like was making famous filters and wanted to play around with this, or wanted to see what all of the different filters were, they could just edit my project, replace filter with one of these. Later on, as we do things with more like text input, we would be able to make a project where like I could have a text input on the top, and a user could come in and like type in what kind of filter they want and actually see the video change without having to remix the project, which we're going to be doing a bit later. Cool, there are some here. Do you all mind if I pull up your projects? Okay, awesome. So this is, whose project is this? This is Wayne's. So they used the cat as well and also used a lot of the same kind of variable names that I did, which is totally cool. So I'm just going to go ahead. Oh, to get here, by the way, sorry, I did that kind of fast. So I opened Wayne's project and then I pressed this remix button because I wanted to see what all the different filters did. So this is snowy, which is super, super cool. I feel like I actually like this snowy better than mine. I feel like I'm actually like lost in a snowstorm here. I'm going to pull up forest. Awesome, like very forest spirity. Underwater, cool. And then sun, and I'm going to use a capital S so that my capitalization is the same as Wayne's variable names. So this is an amazing project. Yeah, I love your snowy filter. I think that's super, super cool. Cool, so then I guess that is it for today. Did anyone want to stay and work on debugging some of their code? Oh, cool. We actually have one more. Let's see. I'm not sure who made this one. This was just like a vid coder. But in this one, we have kind of like another cool underwater filter that feels like very beautiful and like very kind of glassy to me. I like that there's text here too, so we didn't get to this. But if we wanted to, we could, for example, switch like text in as well. So let me actually show you how we would do that since we ended a bit early today. So I'm going to go back to my project and just go ahead and press edit project here so I can pull it back into the workstation. Oh, cool. Lemon Juice just submitted a really beautiful project as well. Let me pull in their filters here. So they have daylight and nightlight. So I'm going to go ahead and check out daylight. really, really pretty. Nightlight, also really pretty. Yeah, so you get that kind of like moody, like light changing into nighttime vibe, which I really like. So just to show you, like since we have extra time, how you would go ahead and sort of expand this to a message. So the first thing I would do here is just pull in text. So I'm going to say text, and then I'm not going to put anything in here yet. I'll just put in like hello. We're going to be changing this to the filter name. And then I'm going to give it an X position, which is going to be its left and right position, and then a Y position, which is going to be down. I actually kind of want it like to stay sort of at the top. Cool, that looks nice to me. So then instead of, I don't think I can just get the name of the variable. Yeah, no. So I'm going to pass in like one more element into each of these array. And it's going to be just the name of the array. So I'm going to say sunshine, and I'm going to capitalize it because it's sort of a display name. If I wanted to too, I could say like a little message to go with it, like help. Call this one like forest adventure. I could say in this one like snuck in a snowstorm. Snowstorm. I'll call this one morning light, and I'll say here in dusk. Cool. So basically all I did here was add another element to this array that has a message component. So now in text, in my actual like text function, I'm going to want to take filter and pull in the fourth element. And now when I now when I change my filter, like which one's active, the actual text is going to change as well, which is really cool. So just one of the many ways that we can use arrays. Cool. And it's amazing, right? Like I can change so much just with this one line of code. And you can think about that for anything. Like if you sort of write code in this way, when you're making, for example, that video game, you can change the level with just one line of code because you've organized your code in this like really organized good way. And I guess that's it. Let's see if anyone else submitted one. Cool. Well, thank you all for coming. I'm going to publish this again. Just give it the same name. I'm not going to change anything. And I will see you all next week. I think, do you all prefer like these sort of more like projects that like go over specific concepts? Or do you prefer the bigger projects where we do a lot of things? Like the ones where we do sort of more like video games, or like last week when we did the card. Let me know in the chat sort of which you prefer. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we can keep doing more like video game stuff. I'll probably switch in and out, like spend some time on the fundamentals, like maybe like every other club on the fundamentals, and like every other club on like more advanced sort of video game projects. So that if people start to feel overwhelmed, they'll have like the fundamental weeks to go back to. Yeah, we can totally do video games next week. Cool. Well, it was nice to see everyone and code with everyone. I hope you had fun today. As always, you can email me with any broken code or any questions. I put my email in the chat. And happy coding!